Power Hour with John Lee.
Mr. Marshall Applewhite, who gave himself the title of Doe, spelt do, Doe. And he gave himself a few others as well, but his main one was Doe. Now, what was the crack with Marshall Applewhite, or Doe? Well, he was a teacher and he got fired for having sex with a boy, basically, or a young man, a teenager. But he was homosexual. And maybe because of the stigmas in society, he thought that was bad or wrong. And so he swore off sex for the rest of his life, became celibate. He actually castrated himself at one point. I mean, once you've done it, you've done it. But, I mean, he went so far as to castrate himself. And so he was a tormented individual, I would suggest. And he developed the thesis that he was not human. He was an alien. Fairly common complex. And as far as complexes go, And what he was going to do was collect others like him, inferior to him, of course, but they were all aliens living here on Earth. That was the situation. And the Hale-Bopp comet that passes by Earth every 2,000 years, that had in its wake, trailing it, a spaceship. That was their peeps were on this spaceship. And they were going to zoom up, well, probably beam up, innit? Beam up to the spaceship at the right time. And they had to renounce all kinds of things. They all cut their hair. Again, separation from friends and family seems to be another aspect of this cultism. Maybe that's an ingredient as well. But Jesus did that, apparently according to the Bible. Leave your fishing nets and boats upon the shore, he said. Leave your friends and family, he literally said that. So, yeah, he did the same thing, and he's created this cult, and they're all wearing the same kinds of clothes, and they've got the same haircut, they've got the big eyes, and, they're totally detached from reality, but I couldn't be happier, mantra. That they're all saying the same things, and, this is great. And then, sadly, there's no spaceship, do you know what I mean, obviously. And it was decided that we're going to change the rules because they were going to come down. The aliens were going to beam down first, give these people new bodies. Then they're all going to beam back up onto the spaceship and travel off into the distance, or go to a happy planet. And he decided, well, actually, we're changing it now. We're going to leave these bodies, and then we'll get our new bodies. So in order to leave the bodies, you have to fucking die. So they committed suicide, apparently in shifts, and all wearing identical or very similar kind of sports clothing. And they did it, they took poison, and they also put bags over their heads as well. And the men were all castrated. They castrated themselves. I mean, imagine going into a DIY shop and saying, look, I'm planning a home castration. What can you recommend? You know what I mean? You say, just wait a minute, yeah. Oi, lunatic, aisle 5, call the popo. But no, nobody ever did, and I don't know about having any trained medical professionals on the premises. But they castrated themselves, and then they killed themselves in this weird staged, meticulous way. But it does appear that they all committed suicide. And I've even seen an interview with a guy that seems like a professional fellow, saying that he deeply regrets that he wasn't there, that he didn't commit suicide with them. He thinks they're all on a spaceship. Mad. There's my chair sinking. What? Sinking chair? The king's too big for his chair. That's all it is. So, he was saying, I missed it. He thinks he's missed his flight to fucking Zargon 5. Anyway, so Marshall Applewhite, I think he was crazy. I really think I don't know if he really believed everything he said, but looking at him, listening to him talk, if you met him in a pub, you'd move. You definitely would go and sit somewhere else. I think he was just a mentalist. So we're going to rock now some criminal ones, some criminal cults. Nxivm, I think it's called. This is in the news now. As much as anything is in the news during these times of COVID-19, this is. And Nxivm is another one of these self-help cults, you know. Join it, buy the books, buy this, buy that, follow these rules, do this, do that. You will be successful. And the boss of it, the leader, the founder, one of the founders, but he just became the top, you know, the guy, was Keith Raniere, right? And he made up some bullshit about being the most intelligent man in the world. Said his IQ was 240. I don't think mine's 239. And and told everybody that. Just made it up and started telling people that. Brilliant. And people believed him. And he started this cult, and he got these, at first, he got these sisters who are heiresses, and the names have gone, it's an odd name, but they're heiresses to a fortune, because the father owned a coffee company, the name of which, again, escapes me, unfortunately, at this moment in time. It's just me in a studio, you know, so I can't remember the names. There's two sisters anyway, and they were the heiresses to this coffee fortune. And they gave him millions. They bankrolled him. They made it possible, right? But what did they make possible? Well, he's just gone to jail. He's just gone to prison now. Not jail, prison. He's gone to prison for 120 years. So if some of these, you know, cult leaders are right about multiple lives, he'll probably be reincarnated and then born into a prison somewhere, because that's the intention, I think, of that sentence. It's more than a sentence, just life. You stay in there until you're dead. Now I'm going to give you 120 years just so you really fully comprehend the fact that you're never getting out. So serious crimes, and the crimes are, amongst others, branding, sexual slavery, and people trafficking. And what's made this case even more interesting is that Allison Mack was his number two. Who's Allison Mack? She is an actress, an American actress who became famous as Chloe Sullivan in Smallville, right? Sweetness and light, happy little journalist person, running the school newspaper, secretly in love with Clark Kent, who's this big, handsome farm boy, but he's in love with Lana Lang, the character played by Kristen Crook. So Kristen Crook and Allison Mack, they got involved in this cult. Kristen Crook thought, nah, this is shady, and left. And Allison Mack didn't, and she got right into it, and she worked her way up through the ranks, and she became the number two, right? And they were recruiting, and lots of these women were, he had a team of women working for him, recruiting women and bringing them in and turning them into sex slaves. And they were branding them, you know, hot iron branding. I mean, and it was done, I think it was done with like some kind of pen, I don't know what it's called, tell me what it's called, cauterizing pen or something like that. So it takes a long time to do it, and it's an intensely painful experience. And she was doing it, this Allison Mack, and she was putting her own initials into women, just near the hip bone as well. It must be tremendously painful, that. And maybe it's where the ovaries are, maybe there's some kind of symbolism there, I don't know. But they had this mix where they were putting her initials, AM obviously, and KR, Keith Raniere, as a kind of a mix, a kind of logo, a sick logo. If you've got an IQ of 240, you're not going to put your own initials on the fucking victim. Anyway, he got caught, and he's in jail now. And Allison Mack, she's looking at doing some time as well. She's been busted for racketeering, which means she's running a criminal enterprise for profit. Racketeering charges, man, you know. That's what they throw those kind of charges at mafia bosses, and they never get out. So we'll have to see what goes on with Allison Mack. And I just think it's a tragic story. I mean, I'm sure she's a bad person now, but I don't think she always was. Um, and what she's done is what she's done, and she has to pay for it. But I also think she's a victim of this Keith Raniere as well. Another one.